Hi everyone, thanks for joining our webinar this morning on Decoding SMB1001. Just waiting for a host to join. We're joined today by Bill, the Kinetics CTO, and we are expecting Peter to be joining us too. So, Bill, any insights?
I've just dropped him a line. I know he's an early riser. He's based in Queensland, so it is 7 a.m. But he said he had no problem with that. Like a lot of entrepreneurs, he starts early. So we'll give him another minute to see if he turns up.
Okay. And from a housekeeping perspective, everything is being recorded. We'll share it on our website in a day or two. And microphones are muted, but if you have any questions, please drop them in the chat as usual.
And
morning, Peter.
Peter. It's muted.
Let's unmute Peter.
Sorry, guys. Sorry I'm late. Teams always seems to push me around for some reason, but it's glad to be here.
Thanks for getting up or joining a meeting so early.
My pleasure.
So yeah, today we're talking about SMB1001. So Bill is the Kinetics CTO, and Peter, thank you for joining us, the CEO of Dynamic Standards International. I'm leaving it to both of you to discuss the topic, and I'll handle Q&A and things like that.
At the end. Okay, thank you. I'll just stop sharing my screen. We will come back to the slides later. And just introduce Peter to everyone. So Kinetics belongs to an organization called Evolve, and we go to meetings every quarter. In fact, Andrew's at one in Brisbane right now. And from some of our we'll call them sister companies that belong to Evolve, we heard about this thing called SMB 1001, and that it was getting a lot of traction in Australia and internationally. So, and we had a look at it. It's a framework, and we're going to get Peter to tell us about why it came into being in a moment. But what really stood out for us is it fits with small medium enterprise here in New Zealand as a cybersecurity framework that you can actually work your way through, do practical with practical advice about how to be secure, and you can certify to it. And so we decided we'd get Peter to come along and talk to it this morning, give us a bit of background, first of all, where it came from, and the journey that Peter and his partners went through in actually putting together something that has, from a germ of an idea, now has quite an international acceptance and following. Perhaps, Peter, you'd like to explain to us, tell us about how you went from this idea to something which I know has traction across the US and UK and status and with the Australian government these days, I believe.
Yeah, terrific. Thanks, Bill. It's been quite the journey. I'll say that. So just to give you a bit of background on myself, I'm a career entrepreneur. So I've been involved in technology development in a dedicated way since 1999. So for the overwhelming majority of my career, I've been focused on developing software and helping organizations use technology in the most efficient way possible. Lots of different journeys over that time, but come 2014, I took a very definite step to establish Cybermetrics, which essentially is my cybersecurity incubator. It's the place where I would do things and come up with new ideas with the particular focus on cybersecurity. The 2 or 3 years before I started Cybermetrics, I was running an MSP here in Brisbane, managed services business. And it was a very successful business. And I was a very early adopter of hybrid cloud. So we were offering cloud services, on-premise cloud services very early on to some customers. And it was very clear to me that SaaS and being able to move to solutions like Microsoft 365 and Google Workspace, that a lot of the basic security controls would work their way into the stack and we would just start to consume them. So a lot of the technical stuff would be taken care of, especially for the small to medium business owners that just want to be able to consume services like that. What it did point out to me, though, was that as we were hardening infrastructure from a technology perspective, it didn't stop the attacks. And it really helped me focus on who was actually being attacked and what was being attacked. So getting to the real core issue around where a small business was at risk. And it very quickly became clear to me that the people were the primary target of the bad actors, at least in the first instance. They were the easiest ones to get into your IT system. People are often very helpful and very willing, and they want to help. And bad actors take advantage of that using very, very good social engineering techniques.
That would have been the original ransomware that seemed to come out of nowhere, and suddenly everybody's PC was being locked, and antivirus wasn't working.
It's funny because it ransomware completely flipped the script when it came to cybersecurity. Until ransomware came along, cyber attacks were intentionally covert. You wouldn't. It was next to impossible to discover someone inside your system. And I remember back in the day, I don't know what the current stats are today, but the average days to detection ranged anywhere from 150 to 280 days to detection before you found someone actually was inside your infrastructure. So the ability to actually spot someone inside was next to impossible, particularly for SMBs. So this was a real wake-up call to me. Now, growing up in the land of the tall poppy, the Australian environment is a great one to really test if something does what it says it's supposed to do, because Australians will be quick to say, no, it doesn't do that, especially if Australians come up with the idea. So what I was confronted with in 2014 was some guidance. At this point in time, the Essential 8 hadn't come out, but Australia was still basically using what were the defence principles made by the Department of Defence, the Signals Directorate. And at the time, they had 40 key controls that made up basically a cybersecurity program that an organisation would run. They went and picked 8 out of those and called that Australia's cybersecurity framework. And that was the Essential 8. Where that didn't marry up with my experience, and I came into this not as a cybersecurity expert, and I still don't really hold myself out as one today, but I am a keen observer. And what I was noticing was the guidance that was coming from our government didn't marry up with what was actually happening. And what I was hearing more and more and more, especially from my US colleagues, my US mentors, was this one phrase: cybersecurity is not an IT problem. It is a whole of business risk issue. And that's very true. That's very true. But the guidance that was coming out of Australia absolutely went the opposite way. It was telling everyone cybersecurity is a technical issue. And if you address these 8 technical controls, you won't have a problem. So no one was being told to prepare in the worst case if it happens. Where's your incident response plan? Oh, you won't need that. If you do these 8 things, you'll never be attacked. You'll be safe. So that was really the first issue that I had. The second issue that I had was helping the MSPs actually get a message through to their SMBs around how to protect them. If you've ever run a small business, you know just how challenging that is. Everyday pressures, payroll, rent, whatever the issues are in business, they just don't seem to stop. So it was important that the messaging that came from an MSP actually had some credibility with the client, and the client could see some value.
it's the problem we still have today, because you can
Yeah.
sit there and say, do these things, and somebody else pop and say, oh, you should do this as well, or that. Rather than they say, squirrel, you know,
Spot
go
on,
chase
Bill.
the squirrel. Yeah.
Spot on, spot on. Every MSP had their own framework. That was my discovery, and every client that used their IT provider would say the same thing to me. Our IT guys have got us covered. You don't need to worry about us. But when we went to the
So I was just going to say, because the government frameworks, they're often cumbersome and difficult to apply in an SMB role. You know,
very much so.
Almost every one of them is telling us you've got to go and segment your network, and I go, I got 2 servers, or no server. What am I segmenting?
That's absolutely right. And then when we sat back and looked at the bigger issue, everything that existed from a cybersecurity perspective, with the exception of the Cyber Essentials program in the UK. UK had been very forward thinking around actually going and doing something specific for small business and giving them an instrument that they could demonstrate they had made that investment with the certification of Cyber Essentials. So I think that's been in place for 6 or 7 years now. It might even be longer. So they've seen the way for a long time. But what the problem was that we were seeing around the world is increasingly the larger organizations were starting to call on these frameworks and these standards for supply chain purposes. So all of a sudden, you've got CISOs at large organizations reaching out to their supply chain and telling them they needed to be ISO 27001 certified. I went through that exercise myself in Cybermetrics. We spent 6 months on getting Cybermetrics ISO 27001 certified, put one of our staff through as a lead implementer, and we'd spent around $50,000 in the first 6 months before we even got to investing in one control. And that made it really clear to me that this wasn't fit for purpose for small business. This was back in 2017. So that was really helpful. One of the light bulb moments, though, along the journey was one of the MSPs that we were working with. Good MSP, really mature business, had been trying to get clients to implement MFA, and they just wouldn't do it. There was an overall resistance to it. Then one client went and received had a maturity report done by BDO. That report was given to the MSP, and that client took every action that BDO suggested in it. So it told me that if the guidance was coming from a reputable source that understood cybersecurity, and it wasn't coming directly from the MSP, the client trusted the advice more, and they didn't see it just as the MSP trying to sell them something. So that was a really important point. So with these discoveries and with around 400 or 500 assessments that we ran with small business over that period of time, the long and the short of it came back to this one thing. Can you please give us a list of what good looks like, and we'll get it done? Spot on. So that's exactly what we did.
Sounds simple.
And really, it fundamentally was pretty simple. One other thing that I heard the whole way, and I continue to hear to this day, is cybersecurity is a journey. Yet everything I saw never demonstrated a journey. It only ever demonstrated binary. You either have it or you don't have it. I've been very fortunate that one of the most influential learning experiences I've had over my life, and I've done tertiary study and I've done a lot, but the one that really brought home the concept of mastery to me was my martial arts journey. So I've done Taekwondo for 25 odd years. I'm a Taekwondo instructor, and martial arts breaks down mastery perfectly. You never finish. So you will die as a 9th Dan black belt, having done it for 75 years of your life, but you're never the 10th Dan black belt. You never get there. You're never right there. But everyone started as a white belt. No one ever came in as a black belt. Everyone started as a white belt. They sat there for the first 12 months, different points, and then they went to a grading, and then they went up to a yellow belt, and then they went to a blue belt, and then they went to a red belt. And by the time they got to the black belt, they had the basics in place to start to develop mastery. It was no different for cybersecurity. We didn't have the white belt, the yellow belt, the blue belt, or the red belt. And that's exactly what SMB 1001 is. It is a multi-tiered framework that allows a business to start where a business needs to start at the start. And that needs to be applicable for any business in the world, whether they're in New Zealand, whether they're in Vanuatu, whether they're in Zimbabwe or in Estonia or America or the United Kingdom. That principle had to be the same. Every business needs a starting point, and that's exactly what level 1, the bronze level, was. Level 2 was a really, really important level. Any organization that was already working with an MSP should pretty much be at silver level. So if you look at your clients and you look at the main risks that exist, the silver level was there to help MSPs say immediately to our customers, this is the good work we've been doing for you. You can now get a certification to demonstrate the investments you've made, that you can show all of your partners, all of your customers that you take cybersecurity seriously. And 9 out of 10 times when we've seen a CISO ask for ISO 27001 and the clients turn around and said, we're a small business, we've got a silver or gold instead, they've accepted it. Because it's demonstrative proof that that organization is engaged and they have the basic stuff in place that will fend off 80 to 85% of what you're up against.
We certainly ourselves, and I know within our client base, this is becoming more and more common that that our clients and our clients' clients are asking them, what is your stance? What is the framework you're following? And if you don't have something, they just, inundate you with questions.
Yes.
And you can, correct me if I'm wrong, everybody does. At silver level, people can get cyber insurance.
Correct, absolutely. So I believe all of the insurers on the CyberCert platform offer an insurance policy at the silver level. And what it does is it replaces the application process. With any of those providers, if you have your certification, you can apply for insurance on the portal, on the platform, and that will replace an insurance policy. That's exactly what we want to do. We want to make it easier.
Because I know if you're just going out and just asking for cyber insurance, you get pages and pages of questions. Yeah. And they're all black and white questions in what is often a grey world.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, to be fair, the majority of individuals in the space are really at a fairly rudimentary level of understanding when it comes to cyber threat and cyber risk, especially if you want to target very specifically the audience that you're talking to. So most of the actuarial data that exists for insurers right now is probably off larger organization compromises with questions that really aren't applicable to how a small business operates. So the insurers have been very grateful for the standard in the fact that it standardizes what's being asked for. And most importantly, it ticks off another thing the Australian government was really trying to do heavily in 2022, which was get directors engaged on their cyber program and not just passing it off. So if you want to get certified as an organization, the owner or a director of the organization must sign off that attestation. If you just want to sign it off and not look into the detail, that's on you. But the intention is that by actually dragging in the director or the owner at that point to commit to the certification requirement, would have them ask and be more engaged with their IT provider around what's actually being done, and do it in the lightest touch way possible. One of the other really key aspects of the silver level, level 2, is it introduces a control that no other standard in the world has. It introduces a policy to avoid invoice fraud. Now, invoice fraud is very, very common inside the profession sector, and lawyers particularly are targeted for this. Not just invoice fraud, but bank account manipulation and payment manipulation fraud. So that one policy with multi-factor authentication really goes a long way to securing your organization from what has been over the last 7 years, the #1 financial crime internationally. That's where we sit with silver. And then where we expected most organizations would want to get to is the gold level. And once you've got to gold level, you've got what we would call a rounded risk management approach to your cybersecurity. It addresses your people, it addresses your processes, and it addresses your technology.
But I do actually for those that are watching, I have some slides which we will come to at the end here that just quickly covers off particularly those first 3 levels.
So look, in that pretty much is the guts behind what's been done here. The last piece, which was really important, was the certification.
Yeah.
It's critical that investments that small business make, that they can demonstrate they've made those investments, particularly when they're about topics that they're frequently asked about. And it was also critical that it maintain that it be price affordable for SMBs, especially if it was going to be mandated in supply chain. So for the first 3 certifications, which require director attestation, they've got a price point of $95, $195, and $395 for the year. It's an annual update, but the standard itself also goes through an annual update to ensure that it stays pace with the threat landscape, what the actual attacks are, but it also stays on pace with the technology advancements. What new technology controls are coming in place that will make it easier for an SMB to manage their cybersecurity?
Yeah, actually, that was one of the things that really drew us to this in the first place, was through the feedback from our friends in Australia. That I think it was the remote desktop protocol. Everywhere you go, it says, oh, you've got to have a VPN. But of course, at this level, we're often using remote gateway. So, and to have that come in as here's the problem, but actually here's the solution as well that works for SME size organizations. It's a real breath of fresh air trying to,
It's critical. It's critical, Bill. And look, it probably, this is an area, cyber particularly, and AI is just another level beyond this, but actually regulating and having standards in this space, they have to be agile, because the risks are agile and the threats are agile. So increasingly, we're seeing the value proposition of an organization like DSI that operates in a really lean way, both on how the updates happen and from an operational perspective. That agility just doesn't come when you get any bigger. The governments, for example, Essential 8 really hasn't been updated in any substantial way since it came out, 2017, 2018. And there's weaknesses in it.
Yeah, we're the same here for our critical controls, and it's with both of them. Like, I mean, the first time you ever sit down and look at them, you go, "Where's my desktop protection mentioned in here?" Right? Yeah. I could actually go and do all these and not be running an antivirus, and you'd be saying I'm good. I'm just going to reshare this. So people who get it afterwards can actually see the slides that I put in that to cover some of what we've just been talking about.
Terrific.
But to help people out, I have there is actually, as you can see here, there's five levels. The first 3 self-attested. And then if you're looking at a platinum or a diamond, that's when you do need to be audited for those. And I think by the time you're getting up to a diamond, and I stole something from one of your slide decks that's at the end that shows how this matches with some of the international stuff. So diamond is kind of getting you up around that ISO kind of level.
Exactly. Exactly.
And here's a big thing. So if we got these, what suits your organization? You've got a couple of ways to find out. Probably the easiest one is, you'll see on the bottom of the screen here, you can go to cybersecurity.ai and they actually have a little tool, ask 4 simple questions, multi-choice questions. Helps if you click on you'll see along the bottom of the slide, I've got the top of their screen. If you click on the Get Certified, it takes you to the correct location, also the correct tab within the calculator. Just answer those 4, and that can give you a good guide to what was suitable for your business level, to the risks of your business and how your clients perceive your business. Just to show you how I'm not going to say simple, because security is never simple, but let's say unonerous, if there is such a word. This is the bronze level. Is simply, it's 7 controls, of which you're probably already doing it, everybody on this meeting. I did have a joke in my notes to say that if you're missing the first one, which is engage a technical specialist, so have somebody outside. Scott is on the call here. Send him an email address. He will send you an invoice. You pay it, and you can go tick on that one. Right. So 7 controls, and you're a bronze. Silver. This is where I think it really starts to get interesting. You'll see that this starts to build out across different parts of the business. So more governance starts to come in with this and with gold. One thing is, although they are adding extra controls at this level, sometimes they also will add extra steps to the controls that have come through from a previous level. Okay, so an example of that would be from here, email anti-spoofing, which on a silver, so if I get a bit technical, covers a thing called SPF records. When you get to gold, that's still there, but it now gives very clear instructions around the DMARC level. I did want to say what this framework does help you all with, gives you some assurance. So you can take your certification, you can show it to your board, your shareholders, to your partners, and you can demonstrate this is what we are doing as a company. Now that helps because I know that I'm hearing more and more of this. People's boards or advisory boards are going, well, what do we do for security? Do we do, and they will randomly pull something like a pen test is a recent one. Do we do a pen test? We should do a pen test. Pen tests can be expensive. They don't apply a lot at our SME level. You're better off. There's better places to invest those resources. They're always limited for us. Okay, so you got that. You got the diligence. If your clients are coming to you and they're asking the question, is the information you hold on me, is that safe? Is that secure? Insurance, which we covered off, you can get insurance on this as well. And it gives you a good framework for decisions. If you've been challenged to say, what are you doing for security? Here you have relatively consumable steps that you can say, well, here's the step that suits our business and we are comfortable with. So it's rather than sitting there and saying, well, we've done these 5 things, what should we do next? You've got clear targets, I guess would be the word I'm looking for there. And to give you an idea, a much simpler one here. Where are we? It was actually on the bronze. Antivirus on all devices. This is one of the things I really like about this. Frameworks will tell you you need security. You need this antivirus, for example, on all your devices. They don't tell you how to deal with devices, perhaps, that don't naturally support antivirus. Here, there's nice clear instruction. This is how you can secure your mobiles, which it makes working through this process so much simpler. So there you go. They add 10 more controls at this level, once again, of which most of you are probably doing most of these things. Gold, I think, adds about another 10. Now I'm going to call out that it's gone from password policies to having a password manager as a requirement. Those of you who have been to my webinars know I'm really hot on having a password manager. MFA, they take MFA from on all your email accounts, saying actually have it across all your business applications. And you'll all know if you've attended any of our webinars, we are really hot on MFA. And invoice fraud, which was mentioned before. See, I've got my notes out of that, came in at silver. Here we bring in the EDR at the gold level, and I'm checking because when I went through my slides the other day, I found I had actually the silver, and yes, I have got the gold on this. So 10 more. And you can see if you're looking at these, a number of these become policies that you need, governance policies. So they're not actually, we're not standing here saying at every level you have to buy more technology. This is about processes that help you protect your business and help you be secure. And I've got to say, and here we have a cyber response process. A lot of companies think Here we go. Implementing a response plan for cyber-related incidents. When you think about it, you're probably going to go, but I got one. I ring Kinetics. That's fine. We're going to help with dealing with it. But if you've got a plan, and one of the things that we can help do is our Cambium team can help you do desktop exercises to help explore what you do need to do. You need a plan. Who are we going to call? Where is our data? This mentions digital assets. If you've been breached, where is this data kept? What are the things we need to worry about? If you've got a plan there, you're already 2 days ahead of the process when something goes wrong.
Way ahead. If there was one thing that I would invest in, if I didn't have after the call, it was a one pager on the way to getting a proper incident response plan, because they're very, very cunning. They know that the incident response plan's in the owner's head. They're in your email account. They know when you're on a plane or go on holidays, and that's when they attack you. And the rest of your staff don't know what to do.
Yeah, look, we see this. We've experienced it ourselves with our own CEO traveling, getting off about the time that his plane landed in LA. Our CFO is getting an email from him about transferring funds. And these people we're talking about here, the hackers, the dark web people, they're doing this all the time. You only get hacked occasionally. You only get hacked once. Being prepared, you don't have the chance to go through a learning situation. They have already been through it. Certification is easy to do. It is self-attestation. You do need to have a company director work their way through the process. It's not onerous at all. We've done it here. We can take you through the journey of getting certified. You need to purchase the standard for yourself and then work through that. We give you some documentation to help out with that. And then we can take you through the online process. Now, because I'm conscious of time, I'm going to get Scott to look and see if there's any questions.
Yes,
Whilst
please.
he's just doing that, I just want to show you a couple of other things. We have upcoming for the not-for-profits on here. There's an executive roundtable taking place at Microsoft on the 17th of March. Strictly limited seats. There's QR code there to sign up or talk to your account manager. I will just loiter on the next one. The next webinar next month is on breaches. That's much more professional than this one. It's going to be handled by Reese, who hopefully you all know. He's going to bring learnings from recent breaches and discuss those. There's QR code there. And I'm just going to show you the next couple of slides so that they're here in the recording. You can, for later on, I stole these from Peter's own deck. So here you are, how the levels match to some of the bigger frameworks around the world. So that will now be in the recording. A little bit about how DSI and CyberCert all hold together. And to give you some sort of idea of, because I've used the term sensible and simple. This is well thought out. This is the people that are involved in helping to set the standards that we are talking about.
It's missing a really important point here, Bill. It's missing a really important member, one of our Kiwi friends. And I'm really, really keen to get Kiwi representation on the steering committee.
Right. Okay. We certainly know some people, I've got to say some smart people, smarter than myself. Okay, so Scott, do we have any questions?
We don't have any questions, and it's really good. You must have explained yourself really well. One thing, my observation is New Zealand doesn't have any sort of government mandated standard. The National Cybersecurity Centre, which used to be called CERT-NZ, has a few recommendations, but they're not hard and fast rules. Australia has the Essential 8, and it's provided some guidelines. I feel like this is a really telling or really obvious example for New Zealand businesses to get cracking on. And
you can actually
it does,
certify to it. You can
yeah.
say, here you go. Here's my certificate. We have done this. Which is amazing.
And the bit I like too is it distills all the products and the technical solutions that people are peddling, or may have a vested interest in, with independent suggestions or independent guidelines on exactly what we need to focus on. Because it's very easy for someone in the tech space to get enamored with elements of it and forget about the basics. So for me, I'm delighted to see this Kinetics align ourselves with this and being able to share it with clients. And thank you, Peter, for taking the time so early in the morning.
Yeah. My pleasure.
To help us with a bit of the background on it and the benefits.
No, that's
look,
fantastic.
We didn't mention in here, but just Peter has told me around the world there are professional organisations that are saying to their members, this is what you should be doing in order to be able to demonstrate to your clients that you are secure.
Yes.
So, yeah, absolutely. Queensland Law Society, for example, I spent the better part of 8 years working with them on getting to providing some advice and ways to help members move forward. I'll just share in the chat the link to the Queensland Law Society finding. But really, my takeaway for all of you today would be the standard has absolutely been written so that it will make sense to the average small business operator. I completely understand that the technical parts will have complexity, but that's why requirement number 1 is there, that you have a managed service provider. What I would really encourage that you do, though, is get the standard and become very familiar with the people and process requirements, the controls, because they're the ones that ultimately you have to own and you have to execute with inside your business. They literally are the last mile that you need to travel. So it's these guys have got your tech stuff on under control. It's up to you to make sure the training, your staff are prepared, and you've got the right policies and the right plans to protect you if that bad day ever comes. And we hope it doesn't.
Yeah. And hey, just before we wrap up, for those of you that are on our foundation, you'll be in March, you're going to the e-training and phishing testing. We'll be moving to a new version of that starting in March. Based on feedback from clients, we're moving this from being quarterly to continuous training every month. So that means if somebody's away, that's okay. That's not like they've got to wait another 6 months before they're trained. And it's a lot more adaptive. It's learning from the people as they work their way through the process. So the training is targeted more at their for want of a better term, their weaknesses as they're working through where they trip up, they'll receive more training on that. And that's all kicking in the coming months, with new reports coming out as well in KARE. All right. Well, so 10 minutes past the normal knock-off time. Thank you, Peter. And
my pleasure.
Yeah, whereabouts in Queensland are you? Are you close to Brisbane?
Yeah,
you're
I'm in Brisbane. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We will look you up when we're over there.
Yeah, and vice versa. I'm looking at doing a bit of a tour around New Zealand in May. So would love to reconnect then as well.
Oh,
thank you everyone for your support.
The weather's great. The weather's great in May. It'll be sunny and warm.
Yeah, perfect. Looking forward to it. And none of this happens and none of this exists without your support. So thank you all, everyone, for your belief in what we're doing, and hopefully it makes all your lives easier.
Oh, look, thank you. We've been looking around at international standards for a long time, and by far the most sensible standard, and the certification process just absolutely perfect. Thank you very much.
I think it's one of the things that Aussies and Kiwis do really well. We're pragmatic, and if we do have to solve complex problems, we look to do it in pragmatic and simple ways, and it's always served us well.
Very untech solutions, pragmatic and simple. Yeah.
That's it.
All right. Thank you
Thanks,
very much.
guys.
Very much.
Thanks again for
Bye,
having
Peter.
me.
Thanks everyone for joining. Bye.
Thank you all.